Howdy, all. Happy Thursday. It's the three of us. Eck is not available today. Have to say, though, I was sort of looking forward to the Foo Fighters playing up in Toronto tonight, but I've made so many drives up and down the QEW the last month or so, and including a trip to Casino Rama, which I think I talked about last week. That was
You're giving them more press than they deserve, by the way.
Yeah, longer than I ever thought it would be. And I'm just like, I'm taking a vacation right now from driving up to Toronto. It's like I was thinking about going for a Yankees game. I was thinking about going for this concert. I'm just staying in Western New York for, I'd say, at least 3 weeks. Okay, Russ, start us off with the pre-show.
Yeah, so the pre-show, basically, the Football Hall of Fame is having its class. And I'm not even going to announce who's in the class because I'm kind of ticked off at them. And look, of all the Hall of Fames, they have way too many guys anyhow. I get the rosters are big, but they just, it's a litany of players. But one of them is Terrell Owens, and of course we know that, he marches to the beat of his own drummer. Am I a fan? No. But when he said he wasn't going to show up, I said, okay, he obviously has his reasons. He doesn't have to give his reasons, by the way. Like, everybody's like, what's his reasons? And I'm like, I don't know. But, like, Mark Knopfler just didn't show for Dire Straits. Paul McCartney didn't show for the Beatles at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sometimes people don't give answers. Sometimes they just don't feel like going. But here's the thing that the Football Hall of Fame did that made me realize it's all about marketing. They basically decided that, he won't be mentioned during the Friday night gold jacket ceremony. Why? Because he won't be getting a gold jacket because he won't be there. Will they mail it to him? I hope they do, but who knows? They're not talking about that. And then, basically the guy who is in charge of it, Joe Horrigan, said the focus is on the guys who were here. So it seems like even on the day of the Hall of Fame induction, they're going to like put up his picture, mention his name, and move on. And there's a couple of things here. First of all, if you've made it that far to the pinnacle, you should get the same introduction, a lot of video, and everything else for those people in attendance that are fans of his or just want to see who these players are. The second part is Brian Dawkins is one of those guys who's going up there. If you don't think Brian Dawkins is going to talk about his former teammate, Terrell Owens, who they both made it to the Super Bowl with, you're crazy. And that is a huge miscalculation on the Football Hall of Fame's part. What do you guys think?
Well, okay, I'll just say this. First of all, I think that Terrell Owens, he has every right not to show up. He should be treated by the Football Hall of Fame as if, if he doesn't want to go, fine, then treat him with the respect that you would treat somebody who has been inducted posthumously. You talk about him, you have somebody talk about him, you honor him, and then you move on. It doesn't have to be lengthy or whatever. You do that. This is a Hall of Fame that hasn't rejected O.J. Simpson yet. So that's where I put the Football Hall of Fame in sort of the pantheon of Hall of Fames. They're really, I think they're a self-promoting engine, and I don't really have a lot of respect for them. And I've never gone to Canton, and I probably never will. So there you go, Peter.
Well, I mean, O.J. Simpson is innocent, and his court of law.
Yes,
I don't care what court of law. And the jury of his peers said he was innocent.
Mm-hmm.
The guilty parties in that are Christopher Darden and Marsha Clark, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah, we could do a show on that one.
So wait, so you're telling me you're okay that he gets invited to go to the Hall of Fame?
I could care less. What
I know. I'm just saying. Do you think that's a good move?
That's a different argument, though, Russ. That's that's a different thing.
He's looking at.
My point is that what O.J. Simpson did on the field when he was a football player should not be crowded 20 years after. Okay. After by what he did as a human being or didn't do, depending on what you believe and everything like that. Those are two separate things, because if we're going to go down that road, there's probably a few other guys in there who have done some things after their football career.
Ty Cobb in baseball. There's
it's a really slippery slope.
It is.
So and baseball, exactly, whatever. So the thing about Hall of Fames is that, they're there to promote legacy and the longevity of the sport and keep the sport relevant after you've played it and to make it a thing. So that's their role. So I don't I don't really care about this. So if Terrell Owens doesn't want to go, that's fine. He's not the first guy to not go to a Hall of Fame thing. I think back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when the Grateful Dead were inducted and Jerry Garcia didn't go. Mm-hmm. And they brought a cardboard cutout of him. They're holding up on stage. There's mm-hmm. Jerry, blah, blah, blah. And that's that. So someone should just do that with Terrell. And that just speaks to who he is and what he was as a player and an enigma. And but everyone will forget about it.
What the Hall is doing by basically doing nothing?
Yeah, they should do something.
Yeah, they're going to put his picture up. Here's Terrell Owens. Okay, next, Brian Urlacher, you're next.
Yeah, well, if he does want to be able to do a speech, he has the opportunity to do it, right? And he doesn't want to do it. So he's turning it down. Terrell Owens, list off his accomplishments next.
Well, that's the whole thing. I don't even think they're going to do that.
No. Yeah, well, you should at least have some explanation as to why he's in there in terms of if he's not going to talk about his career and thank some people and do what he's got to do. To make the ceremony look
with the group, right? But they also they say he's going to be mentioned with the group, which at the very beginning he'll get called off. But again, they basically said no spotlight, like no highlight. And so, like, to me, it's like, no, you should be listing his accomplishments and showing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm in agreement with you. I can't.
Yeah, and that's that's the thing. The Football Hall of Fame is acting petulant because Terrell Owens, he's not taking part in the ceremony. He doesn't want anything to do with them. So they're acting like a spoiled child saying, you don't want anything to do with us, so we're going to not recognize you. Even though
then why are you putting him in?
Well, because the committee voted him in because his career determined that.
Then the committee who decides these things should be telling the Football Hall of Fame, he's got every right not to attend this, his feelings. We're honoring him for what he did as a football player. Deal with the football, leave the rest beside. And why stoop to his petty level anyways?
Now, here's what they're doing. So they are mailing him his jacket. So that's new. So we did find that out. But they said, here's even a better quote. There's no reason to bring him up as an individual, Horrigan said. He's not here. It's like, come on. See, that is being petty.
See, I would like to see Terrell Owens like crash the party, come in and like dance on the Hall of Fame logo like he did in Dallas.
That would be great.
Piss everybody off and then leave. That would be great.
That would be great.
Okay, I just have to switch it to this because this was a focus of Russ's trolling yesterday was now I'm sorry, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I have a friend whose wife is from England and I know that she wanted England to make the World Cup final, but I was looking at it more as England versus France in the World Cup final. It would have been, and I always have to bring a hockey comparative here, it would have been like Leafs Habs in '93. And I made the comparison, and I said basically that Croatia was the LA Kings of soccer. And somebody took my tweet literally and says, "Well, Croatia doesn't have somebody like Gretzky." I'm talking about them being spoilers. Nobody outside of friggin' Croatia wants to see Croatia in the World Cup final. Everybody wanted to see bloodletting in England versus France in the final.
Not everybody.
The 100-year war all over again.
Yes.
The other day on the show, I said that I'm pulling for Croatia, and Croatia won. And Mike doesn't want to mention that. He buried that because I went against him.
Look, I watched that game. I'm an England supporter. I'm English. I have British citizenship. I have a British passport. And so that's in my blood. But England played a decent first half, and at about the 30-minute mark, they started doing exactly what they shouldn't do. Let's just hold on to the lead. Right. And all credit to Croatia. Now, the Turkish ref.
Yes.
This is the equivalent, I think, of 2006. And I don't know what Turkey has against England. But when Harry Kane was rugby tackled, drawn to the ground, and there not only was there not there wasn't a penalty, let alone a yellow card, and that was red card worthy.
Yes.
What Turkey has against
I have one word for you. It's called Gallipoli. That's what they have against them.
God, that was, yeah.
It was more 100 years ago, but actually 100th anniversary. But
I think that was the Australians, though. But
no, it was the British. I mean,
okay.
it was all of them. The New Zealand.
Yeah, so I mean that was crazy. It was like in 2006 when they had Britain playing someone else. And they had an Argentinian ref. Like, give me are you kidding me?
So it's the same as like when the WWE had Danny Davis as their heel ref.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, again,
yeah, I like that, Russ.
FIFA is the worst, other than the fact that they can agree on goal line technology and their video replay works very well.
Yes.
It is the most horribly run organization in the history of organizations. I mean, right now, Trump's version of NATO looks better than FIFA. Like, that's how bad FIFA is.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, now honestly, I was all geared up for England versus France on Sunday. I could give a frig less about Croatia. France is going to win, and if Croatia wins, great, that's fine. But
yeah, why are you just accounting Croatia out? Like, how do you know they're not going to be elevated by this?
Because France is a much better team. Now, anybody can win in a one-game scenario, but France is a much better team. England versus France would have been
still in there. Like, you never know.
You know, unless somebody has an illegal stick on Croatia.
With the last name like Tessier, even though I am British, there's some French in me, so I'm all in on the French.
Well, what I was saying before, Peter, for a very English guy, you do have good teeth, so that you buck the trend.
You can thank my mom.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, July 12th, 2018.
I'm good teeth, Peter Tessier.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We'll be talking some things about the Winnipeg Jets early in the show. We'll be taking your questions in the chat later in the show because there's not a ton of hockey news, but there's a few situations I want to go over. We'll start in Winnipeg, and the big news of the day was the signing of goaltender Connor Hellebuyck to a 6-year, $37 million contract, $6.16 million per season. That was one of the hurdles that Kevin Cheveldayoff had to sort of get past this summer. He gets Hellebuyck locked up a little more than I thought it was going to be, Peter, but not a bad contract. What were your thoughts on this?
You know, I think it's totally in line with where the goalie contract should be. Like, and if you look at Pierce and stuff, my hope, and remember, hope is not a plan, it's just what you wish for, was that it was about $500K less a year. That was what I was thinking. So if he was in like the 5.7-ish range, that's 4. But in around there, I was thinking that would sort of include that so-called hometown discount, even though Winnipeg's not his hometown. Right. But, you know, that thing. I don't think 6.137 is a bad deal. The only aspect of this deal that I think you have to have a little bit of concern about is it's based on one extremely good year.
Yeah.
And that's the concern. Hellebuyck's 25, so the age curve thing, he's going to ride this out till he's 31. So you're not too worried about that. But is this repeatable? And
yeah, it's repeatable. Why would you immediately go to, is this not?
No, that's the risk factor on it. I'm not saying it's not going to be.
Right.
I'm just saying that's the risk. That's the question that's probably lingering in many people's minds is, okay, he's done it 1 year, right, and he, you know, the year before he stepped in. What counters that logic, Russ, and you know this as well as I do, Hellebuyck took his season after 2016-17, realized he bet on himself with a 1-year deal, mm-hmm, and he went to work, and he came back a much better goalie. Mm-hmm. And that's the sign that the kid understood what needed to be done. Now, the interesting thing is the backup they signed, Brosseau, he and Hellebuyck share the same offseason goaltending coach. So hopefully they're both in Kelowna working together this year. And Brosseau seeing Hellebuyck, who bet on himself with a 1-year deal, now basically earning $6.1 million and says, yeah, I'm with you. And there's a little bit of that tandem, and they work together, they learn together, and that pushes on. Now, The other side of this is the Jets have 10 RFA players. They have just over 20 million in cap space. Your three big ones are Trouba, Morrissey, and Lowry. How much does that take out of the 20 million?
All right. Well, hold on. So let's talk a little bit more about Hellebuyck. So I looked up for his 3 years, his winning percentage is actually 56%. Which, if you think about it, that's pretty damn good considering they just got really good last year.
Yeah.
So that's something. He's got a .917 save percentage in his 3 years. That's that's really good. I mean,
yeah, he's a good goalie.
You should be happy that he was second in Vezina voting, or this deal would have been a little higher. Yeah. So I think they got him at a great price. I think this is the goalie standard now because I think the days of the Price and Rene and Lundqvist deals are going away.
Well,
they're looking to sign these deals, and they're doing it earlier, and that's the way you do it.
Well, okay, and then let's talk about that for a second because we've seen goaltenders that we know are not undisputed number ones, like Scott Darling gets signed for $4 million.
Right.
When Freddie Anderson was traded from Anaheim to Toronto, Toronto signed him immediately to 5 years, $5 million per, and he was 27 years old, so he wasn't old. He was just entering his prime.
And that may be one of the best goalie deals out there right now.
Yeah, I agree. Lamoriello did a great job there. The thing is with Hellebuyck, I think it's a good deal. I think he's worth every penny, but there's no discount there. There's no hometown discount. No. They paid full value for him, and Peter, they can't do that for all these guys. There's going to have to be decisions made because, first, what is Line A going to get? They're going to wait a year, or are they going to are they trying to get him locked up now? And if they're trying to get him locked up now, what does he get?
Yeah. Well, and given the contract Kucherov just signed, and you always pay a premium for goals.
Right.
So wait, so I'm still sticking with goalies. So when Braden Holtby got his deal, which is carrying a cap hit of 6.1 a year.
Yeah.
How is this not a discount when Holtby signed his contract years ago? And, this is today's rate. Like you weren't going to get the same rate that Braden Holtby got, 2 years ago? 2015, 3 years ago. So I disagree. I think he did give you a little bit of a discount because I think there's a lot of great things to come with him. And again, I look back at this Holtby deal and say, Holtby got that money 3 years ago, same exact money.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's not worth it, Russ. It's just like, I mean, you've got the Matt Murrays and the John Gibsons who took bridge deals and took significantly less. Those were bargains at 2.3 for Gibson. I think Murray was around 3 or 3.5. But on a long-term deal for anybody who's considered, I'd say, top 10 in the league, the cap up in the last 2 years. Anderson's contract now, based on percentage, would be, I think, 5.5 to 5.75. So I think Hellebuyck got more than that. So I think it's a fair deal. I don't think it's a hometown discount deal.
No. So let's look at a couple other comparable deals here. So Holtby signed at age 25, as you said, 6.1 for 5 years. He did that in 2015. Okay. Anderson, age 26, 5 years, $5 million. Varlamov, age 25, 5 years, 5.9.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so here's another interesting one. Bobrovsky, 2015, 26, 7.425.
Yeah, he's on the high side, even though he's a double, Vezina winner.
Yeah. Rask, 26, 8 years, 7.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. It's just not. That's why I said I think if you drop that, if that was a $34 million deal and not a 37, you'd be going, you'd be like 5. Yeah.
No, but
that $500K, right? That $500K a year, that's the hope of the discount. But I think it's right in line. But you're right, Mike. He didn't leave any money on the table.
No, but this is, what this is, Peter? You're walking into my Subaru dealership, and unless I throw in the free mats, you're feeling like it's not the best deal. Like that's how you're treating it.
No, I don't have a problem with the deal. Yeah. I'm just saying the wish was if that's $34 million instead of 37, you're really feeling happy about coming out of the dealership.
Well,
and you're talking about right now, you're quibbling about, I mean, you're quibbling about free mats and the lift kit or whatever. And it's not going to change the outcome of how you feel about the car in 2 years.
Well, from the Winnipeg perspective, this is what I saw going into this. And like I said, this is not a bad deal, but I look at your two top offensive players and the contracts that they're on. Scheifele is one of the biggest bargains now after the Tavares deal expired at 6.125. He's one of the biggest bargains in the NHL. Ehlers, after I think it was a 60-point season and a year out from the entry level expiring, they extend him 7 years for 6.
Yeah,
that's a bargain. So they didn't bargain here, is what I'm saying.
But again, let's say in 5 years, Hellebuyck's won 1 Vezina. Like Bob has won 2, and he gets 7.4. If he wins 2 Vezinas down the road, you're gonna be laughing at this.
Yeah. But Russ, even if he's in the Vezina conversation, if he's a Vezina nominee out of any of these years, you're still happy because he's playing up there, right? I mean, just remember in 2007, everyone thought like Roberto Luongo had his first year in Vancouver, had the best season of his career. And the only reason he lost to Marty Brodeur, who ended up having like his best season ever, basically. Like it happens and you can't control that. It don't like the Canucks didn't get value on that deal with Luongo, and that was the 4-year, $28 million or something like that, that he had. It was just that, he just being a runner-up to Marty Brodeur in that season isn't a bad thing. Right. Now, you're still getting the performance, you're just not getting the trophy at the end.
Now this is the Jets scenario right now, and I want to sort of more move on to Trouba because right now, in the next 12 months, Blake Wheeler becomes a UFA next July 1st. He's 1 more year at $5.6 million. As I mentioned earlier, Line is on the last year of his ELC with bonuses. I'm assuming he's over $3 million because he hits all of his bonuses because he scores like crazy. Adam Lowry's going to cost you a little bit, but not a big ton. The same thing with Tanev. But on defense, Tyler Myers, 1 more year at 5.5, then he's a UFA. Enstrom is gone. Trouba is an RFA, and that's the guy I want to talk about. And Morrissey's an RFA. And now Trouba filed for salary arbitration. I think Morrissey's on his ELC. So
Morrissey's on his last year.
Right. So he's not eligible for arbitration.
I think Morrissey's going to get the same Trouba bridge that Trouba got last time.
Right.
And I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that makes sense to do because it gives you a little bit of control. Let's see what's going on here. Trouba is going to get the long-term deal. I think Myers is going to be cut loose because you got to remember Myers, his cap is 5.5, but his salary is 3.
Right.
Right. So, real dollars is not a pain point, but cap it is a pain point. But you're going to gain cap space because there's no way you're paying Tyler Myers $5.5 million at AAV in your next deal. Because if you are, you're silly. He's a $3.5 million. He's a $3 to $4 million guy in this league, depending on who. But then again,
Peter, Calvin DeHaan is a $4.5 million defenseman.
Yeah,
you're spending like it's 3 years ago Canadian currency, Peter. It's not.
Yeah,
I mean we know the injury history that Myers had last season, not this most recent previous season. Calvin DeHaan missed half a year with shoulder problems. He got 4 years, and there were other teams besides Carolina that bid him up. So if Tyler Myers, and remember, Yarmulson, McDonough, Ekman Larson, Doughty, all gone from next year's free agent class. So you're talking Jake Gardner, Jay Bouwmeester, Myers, and if Carlson doesn't get signed, Carlson would be the top. But so he's going to get more than $5.5 million.
Yep.
Yeah, he might, but he won't get it from the Jets because there's no way they can afford that without doing something else.
But with Trouba. And that's now Trouba filed for arbitration. He's 2 years away from UFA. We know the story. We've talked about it ad nauseum about him not liking Winnipeg. Now recently he was amenable to signing, but that's sort of disingenuous, because great, I'll sign here if you pay me what I'm worth, or if you pay me what I think I'm.
I don't think players are ever disingenuous and they say, well, I'll sign here if you pay me what I'm worth, because they all want what they're worth, right? They all want their money. Trouba's point, and in the statement from his agent, was that Kurt Overhard, was that he was being held back by the Jets because he was not getting the power play time. He was not getting the top right wing. He wanted that role. He got it. He got everything.
Right.
Maybe not quite the amount of power play minutes he wanted, but he got the penalty kill, and he got everything. So you got it. The team's successful. You should want to sign here. Now it's, are you going to play the idea of the Winnipeg tax? The idea that, hey, you got to throw an extra bit of money here because I'm playing in Winnipeg. And, and that's always been the case, and we'll see. I just, before we go, Scott Billick of NBC and NHL, NHL.com just tweeted out a great quote from Hellebuyck. And, it's great to see, it's the flowy, nice stuff, but I'll read it to you. Just because I've settled in and the fans are great, the organization is great, and I've got along with the team here. The chemistry is built, Hellebuyck said. I think the tools are in this locker room to be a championship team, and that's fun. It's fun to play, and that's the reason we grew up playing, to have this kind of chance and to go after this dream. So those are the right things. It sends a message right across the way. And look, they're all going to say the positive stuff when you sign a deal.
But he's not the kind of guy, actually, to go down that path if he doesn't believe it. He never has.
No, Russ, thank you. And I'm glad you said that, not me, because you know where he's come from, and you know his thing, and he's been criticized for not talking about the media and stuff. And we all seen, so I'm glad you said that, because that's a little bit unlike him in terms of how he generally presents.
Right.
So
a couple things. I'm looking at the cap, the floor mats that you were arguing about, that extra 500 went to Laurent Brossoit. I mean, he's only $650. That's ridiculously cheap. So what they're spending on two goalies is actually really reasonable. Your most overpriced player, honestly, is, and I know you're going to think it's Brian Little, but it's not. It's Kulikov, and they're going to lose the minute he's gone. And actually, that's why they can pay Myers a little more, because Kulikov will be gone after the year after next, or if there's a lockout.
And you know what? And you might be able to trade him and hold on to $2 million of salary after next offseason. He's like one of the interesting things last offseason for the Jets was, and it wasn't, I didn't notice this until I saw it pointed out by Garrett Hull on Twitter. He deserves the credit for this. Mason and Kulikov signed with the Jets for the exact same deals that they just left. So they basically just switched teams, got the same money. They didn't argue about money. We'll give you exactly what you just earned in the same terms, same contracts. You just come over here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, right?
But that's what's going to happen. Myers will suck up that extra cash.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? And Kulikov, there's no way you should be paying your third pairing left-hand defenseman 4.3 or whatever it is. No, I mean, it's just dumb. But they had to do it because they needed someone, because they were down. So Kulikov takes up the space of Enstrom, and then he's off, and you can maybe swing the same thing you did with Mason with the team next year, right? Dump him, buy him out, off you go.
I mean, here's the thing, though. So if you look further down the line, at that point when Kulikov is gone, you'll start to, hear the murmurs about Logan Stanley, and he could be a guy that gets inserted at that point, or a year away from being inserted, and they just go out and get a plug. But he's probably your next D-man up, and that's fine. I mean, actually, again, I've told you, I think he's just overly criticized in your market. Players love to play with him. He's actually improved a lot. Is he going to be a star? No, he's not going to be a star.
You know what? Here's the interesting thing, Russ, and you made another great point. You know who's taken over everyone was believing Logan Stanley would be this, but you know who's going to be what people thought Logan Stanley should be, or at least is tracking to be that way and believed to be, is Sami Niku.
Yeah.
So if Logan Stanley's a serviceable bottom four guy, and that's all he is in his career, as long as Niku progresses to your top four guy, then it's a wash in terms of, right? Like, it doesn't affect anything. Logan Stanley just has to be able to come into the league and play and not hurt his team. That's all you need out of him right now.
And I believe he'll do that.
Now, the NHLPA just released within the last hour the schedule for salary arbitration. I know that just makes everybody
very exciting, Mike.
It's exciting, but you know, Trouba is on the first day on July 20th. So this situation.
TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. And now the only reason I bring this up is because, you know, I mentioned in the column that I wrote about William Nylander, you know, harking back to, you know, the bridge deal of PK Subban, and the thing is, you know, Montreal, Subban wanted 5 years. Montreal said the 2-year bridge deal at less than $3 million, and then he wins the Norris Trophy in the first year, and then they were basically screwed because then they had to pay him that $9 million salary, which may have been, you know, he had the leverage, and there you go. Yeah. Now, Trouba is in a situation here where I believe the arbitrator can award a 1 or 2 year deal, and I don't know whether it's up to the team or up to the player, or if it's up to the arbitrator who decides if it's a 1 or 2 year deal. But if they decide on a 2 year deal, then he walks after 2 years.
So if he decides on a 2 year deal and it gets to that point, I don't think it will. But if it gets to that point, you've got 2 years to trade him, and the best thing you do probably is you call up Kyle Dubas right now and you say he's yours at arbitration, and at this arbitration hearing, and you got 2 years to figure it out. Like, and if Kyle Dubas doesn't have Chevy's number on speed dial, but if they're walking into the arbitration hearing and Kyle Dubas isn't doing it, you speed dialing Chevy at that point, he's making a mistake.
Even if it's a 1 year deal, because then you're protected because he's an RFA arbitration eligible next year, 1 year away from UFA, get still deal. But you know, there's leverage there, and I mean, I'm just saying that it's a situation that if it goes 2 years, I think Winnipeg, even if it's a 1 year, I think Winnipeg has to seriously consider trading him, simply because you're on the road where I don't think he's signing a long-term deal there. He's just inching closer to that starting line. So the other
you don't know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We don't know. The other interesting one, and then we'll get off of the arbitration thing, is Matthew Dumba on the 23rd of July. I was looking at Minnesota's situation. They have a little under $10 million in cap space. They have Zucker, who led their team in scoring with 33 goals, and Dumba, who led their defense core with 50.
I think you should repeat that, because I can't tell you how many times I told people Jason Zucker is a tremendous goal scorer and a clutch guy, and because of injuries, it seemed like the Wild fans sort of fell off that for a while. Yeah, he's pretty good though. 33
goals, 31 assists. He was third on the team in scoring, but led them in goals.
Because if you remember, the talk was, we'll just give him to Vegas, right? Because he's a Vegas guy.
Right. No, I exactly. But he's definitely a valuable commodity. Yeah. But the thing is now, with that little cap space, and it doesn't sound like it's little, but you're talking about your leading goal scorer and you're probably your second best defenseman, and Ryan Suter is going to be out for at least the beginning of the season. That whether you're going to be able to afford both of those contracts, and there's been talk about them maybe trading a guy like Spurgeon, because he's under contract for 2 more years, a little over $5 million. And they can afford to pay Dumba. I don't think they can afford to pay Dumba and Spurgeon. Now, the only thing here is if Suter goes on LTIR at the beginning of the year.
That's what they'll do.
Right, but the chickens will come home to roost as soon as he's healthy, Russ.
Yeah, but that's, you're talking about months down the line. I think, look, Dumba's going to get paid, right? He had a great year. He's everything you want in this NHL because he can score goals, he can play physical, he can skate. So he's always been high on my list, and I'm pretty sure he'll get paid. Spurgeon might be the guy that gets traded, but they don't have to trade him now. They will do the LTIR game, and then they'll sort of play the shell game from there, because I think they could probably get through this season not dealing Spurgeon, but they could at least get to the deadline if they can't do that.
Right. They'll either demote or, injuries happen and they'll be able to play that game, but it's gonna be tight. Before we take questions,
the Flyers, sorry, the second time we did this here. Remember when the Flyers were literally calling up a different guy every day because their cap was so tight?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Paul Fenton will be doing this year.
Yeah, and Calgary, remember the year that they couldn't field or they couldn't ice a complete team because they couldn't afford to call anybody up?
Yeah. It won't be like that. Fenton will just be calling guys up and down. Like, it'll just be, because the cap changes daily. That's the one thing, again, I don't think the average fan realizes the cap changes daily.
Okay, well, we're gonna do this in like we'll make this a little segment for the next week or so. It's the old game on unrestricted free agents. It's either training camp, PTO, contract, or nothing. And I'll pick out 5 free agents, unrestricted free agents, and we can all pick and predict whether they'll get a contract, whether they'll get invited as a PTO like Simone Dupre did by the Montreal Canadiens this morning, which I think is a good risk because he's still in his 20s. I know he had concussion problems with Anaheim and Pittsburgh. But if he's healthy now, that's not a bad pickup. But I'll give you 5 names here, and we can say whether they'll get an invite, whether they'll get a contract, or whether they will be a free agent when training camp starts in mid-September. All right, number 1, former Atlanta, former Dallas goaltender Kari Lehtinen. Peter, training camp invite, contract, or nada?
Training camp invite.
Okay. Russ?
Nada, because I think most positions are filled already.
Yeah, I mean, he played 36 games last year. He's 34 years old. Yeah,
He's got to wait till an injury. He's got to wait till a significant injury.
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he locks onto a team probably in Finland in either the Finnish league or in the KHL or something like that.
Maybe he'll go to the Pelicans.
Yeah, this one is. I would put this. I'll make my prediction first. This guy will get a contract, but the question is, and you can talk on this, Peter, because you watched him all year. Tobias Enstrom, does he get a 1-year deal? Does he get a training camp invite? I think he'll get one of the two, but how done is he? That's the question.
I think he gets a 1-year contract. Okay.
And is there anything is there enough left in the tank where he could help a team?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't put him out against, the big fear with Enstrom is his size, and he's been relatively durable, but he is fantastic at getting the puck and then moving it and getting it out of your zone. That's a big thing for some teams. So the right team, he'd be an ideal guy for someone like the Oilers.
Sure, why not the Oilers or even Detroit?
Yeah, or Detroit, exactly.
Is he still a top 4?
He's on some teams, yes.
Okay,
I'm surprised. I mean, maybe teams are really just looking to get him even cheaper than that. Like maybe they're going to wait until part of the season rolls by. I think he'll get a 1-year deal because of what he can do on the power play. I mean, he could live off the power play and play a little bit 5-on-5, and somebody will utilize him. But it does make you wonder, Peter. Like there's a host of teams that could use this guy.
Yeah, if he was a right-hand shot, I think Kyle Dubas would have called his agent right away. But
yeah,
I mean, I looked at the free agent defenseman, and the only guy that I considered a top 4 defenseman of anybody available was Dan Hamhuis. Other than that, I wasn't sure about Enstrom because Enstrom only played 43 games last year. But I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get a contract. It's just a question of how effective he'll be. We'll skip Brooks Orpik because I think he'll get a deal. How about Steve Mason? Peter?
I think he's going to get an invite.
Russ?
No, I don't think he's going to get an invite. I think he's going to have to wait for an injury also. I think everybody knows what the deal is with Mason. He's got a history of injuries, concussions lately. He's always asked for top money. He's never accepted lower money.
I think he'll get an invite, but the question is now let's do this. Who's getting the invite first, him or Lehtinen? He's 30. It would
be him over Lehtinen.
Yeah, he's 30 years old. He's not old.
No, but there's some mileage there, and there's an injury problem there. And again, unless somebody comes up lame in training camp,
yeah,
who's slotting him in as a second as a backup goalie. If you look at most teams, what Winnipeg has done with their goalies is what most teams are doing with their goalies. The high-paid first guy, the very reasonable backup. Very few teams are going with that Islander model where, you're making $4 million. And teams that are doing that are moving away from that when they can. Yeah,
I mean, I think he would have been a better signing than Peter Mrazek in Carolina.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Former Montreal Canadian, former Nashville Predator, and current cheap shot artist Alexei Emelin. One-year contract, training camp invite, or nada. If it's based on his reputation, it would be nada. But there are teams that need defensemen. Peter?
I think he's going to get an invite.
Okay. Russ?
I was looking at something that Peter typed out and didn't hear who it was. Who is it?
Oh, Alexei Emelin.
Somebody will take him, but I think it's just going to be a tryout basis.
Okay. I have a weird feeling he's going to the KHL.
He could be.
And if he goes to the KHL, that means nada. So I think, he played 75 games last year. He was on the third pairing for Nashville. So I think he's still an NHL defenseman. But if it's a question of him taking a PTO and taking a one-year deal at $800,000 or something like that, or a one-year deal right off the bat, or him being able to go to the KHL for 2 years and make $2 million a year, which is possible since he's Russian, I think he's going back to the KHL. Final one, Kevin Bieksa, former Vancouver Canuck, former Anaheim Duck, 37 years old, played 59 games for the Ducks last year, right-hand shot, one-year contract, PTO or nada, Russ?
Nothing.
I
think it's gotten to the point where his lack of foot speed is it's too much of a detriment to look at all the other things that he might still be able to do.
Peter?
I think he gets a PTO.
Yeah, I think he gets a PTO only because he's a righty.
Yep, that's exactly why.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, Mike, to see the Leafs give him one, just to see. What do they got to lose?
No, I mean, it would basically replace Roman Polak with the Canadian Roman Polak.
Yeah.
He's from Grimsby, Ontario.
I mean, he had the worst plus minus on Anaheim though, which is a pretty good defensive team. Let's remember that.
Right, and I mean, it was clear he wasn't going back to Anaheim because they have Larson and they have Montour, and they're fairly deep on the blue line. But no, it's possible. I just get the feeling that it's more a possibility that they sign Hamuse or go in a couple other directions than they would go with Bieksa basically because Bieksa is right-handed, but he doesn't have any foot speed anymore.
Just because we're talking defensemen, something that happened a couple weeks ago that went under the radar. Peter was right on it with me off air was when the Jets acquired Simone Bork from the Canadians. He had a bad year with the Rockets, right? But the Laval Rockets were a mess. Anybody who covers them will tell you they were a disaster. And Bork actually used to pair up with Sam Morin. And it's actually a pretty good little puck-moving defenseman with a decent shot. I think that was smart for the Jets to get a guy like that. Even if he's just your depth guy and once in a blue moon comes up if guys are injured, that's where a team now has to really load up on defensemen that they think are close in the AHL so they can bebop them back and forth when there's injuries.
Yep. We'll play this game tomorrow. We'll take another 5 names. Russ, check the chat for some questions.
All right, let's see. I am looking for questions.
And I had a question yesterday. Somebody was asking me where I got my Toronto Arenas T-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I got it up in Toronto around the time that they had that 100th anniversary game against Carolina. I don't know whether it's available. I can't even remember the place I got it. It was downtown. I think it was at the Eaton Center. But it's a nice shirt. But, I don't know if they've made it.
Thanks for that help, Mike.
Sorry.
This is from Scott. Do you think the Detroit Red Wings can get into the Carlson sweepstakes? He was golfing with Zetterberg, Cronwell, and Backstrom last weekend. Yes. Golfing doesn't matter. All these guys are friends. Do I think the Red Wings will be in on it? No, I do not.
No, I don't because it would be –
He won't sign there.
He won't sign there, but it would be stupid for them. a team that is not a playoff team to waste young assets to acquire a guy unless they have some guarantee that he's going to sign there long term. So I don't think so. No. Peter?
All right.
Sorry, who is that again?
Carlson to Detroit. Does that make sense?
No, I think if you're Erik Karlsson, unless you're not agreeing to anything right now, unless you are getting the team you want, even with a contract extension. So you got to be the team you think is going to have hope in the near future. So I don't see Detroit having any chance at him. It just doesn't make sense.
It sounds like right now it's a game of chicken going on between Tampa Bay and Ottawa. And I just, unless Tampa Bay is offering them so much more than they would get from other teams because they can sign him long term, I still think Ottawa would prefer to trade him outside of the conference. I don't think they want to see him there in their building 2 or 3 times a year.
I think so. Okay, so this one comes from DB. He says Taves, Kane, and Malkin all signed for around 15% of the cap. I'll take his word on it. I'm not going to double check him on it.
Yeah, that's about right.
He's in the ballpark.
Is Matthews worth 15% next year, knowing that it'll be around $12.5 million? I would say not 15. He'll end up probably being like 12.
I think he'll end up being, well, okay. Tavares is $11 million for 7 years on a $79.5 million cap.
Yeah.
I think he'll get more of a percentage on an 8-year deal because they're buying a year of unrestricted free agency, but I don't think it'll be significantly more. I think he'll be in the 11.5 to 11.75 range.
Yeah, whatever that is to that next year's cap.
Maybe you're right, and then that's the thing. If the cap goes up again, if the cap goes up to say 83 or 84 million, then then maybe he gets to 12 and a quarter. I still don't think. Even unless he blows up and scores 60 goals, that he's going to eclipse McDavid. I don't.
Okay, so now the next one is from Mike, and he's asking for our thoughts on the Anthony Mantha signing. So I got to look at the contract real quick. I saw it was a 2-year deal.
2 years, $3.3 million. They signed him and Athanasiou for almost the same amount.
So it's a bargain, but it's also a worry if you're a fan. Because if you think that was a career year for Anthony Mantha, it probably wasn't, because he wasn't really playing with that many great players. Like Anthony Mantha could score 30, 35 goals in this league. He has that kind of shot. Right. He's not getting criticized anymore from anybody on that in management, and he's been able to settle in, and he had a nice year, 24-24, 48 points. He will be able to get that year and probably increase it a little bit. And as the problem is Detroit gets better, so will his numbers, and in 2 years to be able to keep up with that, that's a problem. That I would be worried about that next deal for him.
Well, but in 2 years, Zetterberg's contract will be off their books because he's going to go back to Sweden. It's basically it's the worst kept secret in the world that he's going to leave. I think it may actually be after this year. I think the AAV stays at 6, but the money paid out is $1 million, and the speculation is he was either going to retire or go back to Sweden. Yeah. So this pushes that down the road a couple years. They signed Athanasiou for $3 million, Mantha for 3.3, and then basically once they both are RFAs after that, they can, if they've improved, they can sign at bigger dollars.
Yeah, that's true, and I'm sure that's what the deal is. I do want to say I appreciate Queen when she signs on. She usually says, or Queen Dedeen, hello, Russ and the others. I appreciate that you guys are the others. That's good. Is Ryan Murphy a bust, or does he still have potential to be an NHL top 6? No, he's a bust.
He's a bust. Yeah.
And he's a bust because he was really – I liked him, but I didn't realize how defensively deficient he would be in this league going forward. His skating's fine. He just can't cover his own end, and he never really came through in the power play like he did in juniors.
Russ, the game went towards his style of play, and he still can't make the NHL. That's the statement that just shows where he is. I mean, his skating ability is perfect for this league, but he's a 0 in his own end. Yeah.
Let's see. Lots of wing talk today. All kinds of Red Wings talk.
Chicken wings.
No, Red Wings. It says, there's a lot of. Look, I think in a couple of years the Red Wings will will actually start looking better. But it's gonna be a little while. I'm looking to see if there's any final questions here, and I don't miss any. So Vepsis writes, "There's a chance Zetterberg also sits this year out due to back problems." I doubt it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the case with Kessler. I keep hearing that they're saying the best thing for his future would be sit out this year and then allow your back to heal. But I mean, if you sit out a year, he's not Gary Roberts. It's not like all of a sudden you can come back and be a better or just as good of a player. So.
All right, Mike also wants to know how many points do we think Dahlin will get in his rookie year. I'm going to go 40.
Yeah, that's about right. I was going to say 35 to 40. I mean, he's going to get a lot of ice time, and he's going to take away some offensive chances from a guy like Ristolainen, who's scored consistently over 40 points. So I'd say 35 to 40.
Peter, any thoughts?
I think he's going to be under 30.
Under 30. Okay.
I set my line at 30. My over/under, and I'm going on the under.
Okay. Christopher McCarthy wants to know why hasn't Hextall made a move on the top 4D? Simmons' contract demands are too much of a risk wanting a 5 or 6 year deal. Well, that's why they haven't signed a deal, Christopher, because I think Hextall will only go 4 years with Simmons, but does really want to keep him and doesn't want to move on a 5th or a 6th year. So I think that's the problem. A top 4D, I don't know who you think they were going to get.
Yeah, this is an organization that makes no sense for them to go for a top 4D because their top 4D is already in the organization. You've got young guys in Provorov and Gostisbehere and Sanheim that I think are future top 4 guys. So why would you go out in free agency?
Well, because this is the thing. All right, so I could explain this. So when Andrew McDonald ends up in the top 4D again this year, fans will hate on him. They hate his contract. They'll say all these different things. But they don't realize that he is actually helping a lot of their younger defensemen, and Hextall likes him because of that. He hasn't been that bad. Last year actually was a pretty good year for him, and so this is something that goes on with the Flyers fan base that I think is a little bit misguided based on his contract, not his play. I mean, he had 21 points last year. He played 66 games. Could it be a little better for where he plays on the team? Sure. But at the end of the day, people wanted to just have him bought out, outrighted, or whatever, and he's helped along some of their young D-men. So Andrew McDonald's still there, and by the way, Radko Gudas is still there. Who are you'd have to get rid of one or both of them if you want to bring in a top 4 guy.
Okay, to finish off the show, breaking from Elliot Friedman here. He's hearing that, and when he's saying he's hearing, it'll probably be announced in the next 15 minutes, that the Blackhawks and Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes are doing Coyote things, working on a deal where the Coyotes take Marian Hossa's contract, believe that Vinny Hinostroza is part of the deal. So here you go. You've got 3 years at $5.275 million for Hossa, cap-wise. Money-wise, it's $1 million. So basically, the Arizona Coyotes just bought $4.275 million in free cap space.
And what's the give it?
It sounds like Chicago's giving them Hinostroza to take Hossa's contract.
To take it. Boy, Chicago's running out of players, man.
Well, he was never going to play again. That's the thing.
Hinostroza?
No.
They're giving up a perfectly good depth player to get rid of this contract, and it's Chicago's depth is really getting shaky.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Peter, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with Rush. Chicago's depth is getting shaky. They're, and they let Duclair go too. They trade for him and let him go. I don't understand that. Stan Bowman's. He's dealing with the cap nightmare that's been there for a while, and everyone knew was coming, and the problem is that to deal with it, he's got to give things away to deal with it as well. So either he's got a plan and he knows he needs cap space so he can do something else,
right?
Because he's got something there. But this is the cost of doing business when you're that tight to the cap and you've got so much invested in 4 players, and then this nightmare with Hossa.
I mean, he's a 25-year-old guy who plays center of the wing. and had 25 points with the big club last year. Like, this is not like a throwaway kind of player.
No, that's the third line or fourth line center. Or he's on the wing. He's a winger, right?
He's a winger, I think.
He's a winger. So he's a decent winger that maybe he can get. Maybe his upside is 40 points, and 40 points is 40 points now in the NHL.
Yeah,
and you can't sneeze at that anymore.
Yeah, I mean they do have guys like Hayden, and I mean they have some other young guys that they can bring in, but don't be surprised now that they've cleared this cap space. Although it was LTIR mostly with Hossa. I'm looking at the free agents, especially at forward, and a couple names that have long been attached to Chicago. And we know how they like to go down memory lane. How about Antoine Vermette and Chris Versteeg? I could see one or both of those guys coming back on a 1-year deal.
I would be speechless. Let's move on.
Really? I don't agree with it, but I think that that's a possibility because now they have another hole to fill if they thought that Hinostroza was a third or fourth line guy. Well, I think they think that Vermette or Versteeg are capable of being third or fourth line guys. It's just you're not getting – if you get them on the same contract that you got Patrick Sharp at the end of his career, like $800,000 on a 1-year deal, then they'll take that because they opened up the cap space by trading Hossa.
Yeah. Two more questions that I could see. Michael wants to know anything going on at all with Nashville. It's been quiet this offseason. There's a lot of Marcus Mariota talk. That's it. Fash wants to know.
The only thing with Nashville is that there's been no rumblings about an extension for Rene, which starts to make you think that there is not going to be an extension.
No, there's not going to be. We're pretty sure he's riding it out. For Fash, he wants to know, will Nazem Kadri break 30 goals this year? We'll let Mike go first on this.
Probably not. I think he'll be in the 20 to 25 range because now with Tavares and remember, Kadri was the number 2 center, even though he was a matchup guy. Now he'll still get power play goals. He'll still get a lot of them. He'll be on their first power play, and I bet you anything he'll be on the first power play with Tavares. So he'll still get his power play contributions, but I think with probably Matthews and Tavares playing close to 20 minutes a night every night, he'll get the checking role, but he'll still score some goals. So I think he's around 20 to 25.
Yeah, I'm going to go like 26 goals. Like an NBA team, there's only so many touches to go around. I think the Leafs will have that problem now.
Yeah. All right. Good show, guys. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Peter Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.